Welcome back to some of the best stories from r/TalesFromTechSupprt. I hope you had a great day. Thanks for all the likes and comments on the last video. And now let's take a look at the first story. It's called Getting Back at Her. This happened during my tenure as a Tier 1 at a mid-sized call center in 2001. Like most call centers, a ticket was required for any IT problem. Mainly because we had around 500 users online at any one time. Most of the users understood this and followed the rules pretty well, except for the new supervisors. Most were in their early 20s, and it was usually their first time in any type of position of power. They now got an inbox-outbox and their own stapler. They must be important. Liz lived up to this to a ridiculous degree. Every problem led to a panicked call to us, followed by a dash to our office when told to open a ticket. "This has to be fixed right now," she would wail. "I'm a supervisor." Since most of her problems would be resolved with a couple of keystrokes, I decided to nip this problem in the bud. As soon as she would call, I knew I had a couple of minutes, as she made a mad dash down the stairs to pound on our door to plead her case in person. Now, Liz was just a stunningly good-looking girl, so most of my co-workers, also in their 20s and as awkwardly nerdy as you would imagine, would jump to help her. I, however, was in my early 40s and fortunately immune to her looks, so I took to using remote desktop to fix her problem, while I knew she was heading towards our office. Locking her computer was not necessary, I guess. I would begrudgingly follow her upstairs to see the problem, which was already fixed. She would swear that it wasn't doing whatever before, and that it must have fixed itself. After about the 5th time I did this, I dropped this on her. "Liz, I'm a happily married man, and I just don't like you like that. If you don't stop trying to get me alone like this, I'm going to have to go to HR." Liz started using the help desk after that, and me and my co-workers shared a laugh every time one of her tickets came in. The next story is called Share Input Device. This happened in the 80s or early 90s. The scene is a factory making heavy machinery. They are modern, and the factory floor had terminals connected to a mainframe for tracking parts and whatever else they needed it for. One day, a sysadmin gets a call from the factory floor, and after the usual pleasantries, the user says, "I can't log in when I stand up." The sysadmin thinks that it's one of those calls again, and goes through the usual, "Is the power on? What do you see on the terminal? Have you forgotten your password?" The user interrupts, "I know what I'm doing. When I sit down, I can log in, and everything works, but I can't log in when I stand up." The sysadmin tries to explain that there can't be no possible connection between the chair and the terminal, and sitting or standing should in no way affect the ability to log in. After a long back and forth on the phone, he finally gives up and walks to the factory floor to show the user that standing can't affect logging in. The sysadmin sits down at the terminal, gets the password from the user, logs in, and everything is fine. Turns to the user and says, "See, it works. Your password is fine." The user answers, "Yeah, told you. Now log out, stand up, and try again." The sysadmin obliges, logs out, stands up, types the password and invalid password. Okay, that's just bad luck. He tries again, invalid password, and again, invalid password. Baffled by this, the sysadmin tries his own mainframe account standing, invalid password. He sits down and manages to log in just fine. This has now turned from a crazy user to a really fascinating debugging problem. The word spreads about the terminal with the chair as an input device, and other people start flocking around it. Those are technical people in a relatively high-tech factory. They are all interested in fun debugging. Production grinds to a halt. Everyone wants to try if they are affected. It turns out that most people can log in just fine, but there are certain people who can't log in standing, and there are quite a few who can't log in, regardless of standing or sitting. After a long debugging session, they find it. Turns out that some joker pulled out 2 keys from the keyboard and switched their places. Both the user and the sysadmin had one of those letters in the password. They were both relatively good at typing and didn't look down at the keyboard when typing when sitting, but typing when standing is something they weren't used to and had to look down at the keyboard, which made them press the wrong keys. Some users couldn't type properly and never managed to log in, while others didn't have those letters in their password, and the switch keys didn't bother them at all. The third story is called Number 1 Rule. I used to work at a small structural engineering firm, around 10 engineers, as a project engineer, so I used to deal with client inquiries about our projects. Once we had released the blueprints for the construction of the project, most of the time we did house projects. It never presented a challenge for the construction engineer, so most inquiries were about not finding stuff in the blueprints. If you have seen a structural blueprint, you would know that space is a valued commodity, so being a Tetris player is a good drafter skill. Then, this call happened. Big Boss was the chief engineer of the company and my direct superior. One day, we received a request to do the structural design for some houses that were meant to be on a suburban development. Basically the same house with little differences built 100 times. In that type of project, every dollar saved can snowball pretty fast, so we tend to do extra optimization that on normal projects might be overkill. So some of the solutions we do are outside what most construction engineers are used to. That was the case for this project. The incompetent engineer called. One of the beams you designed is collapsing. Are you certain? Can we schedule a visit so I can go take a look before we start calling our lawyers? Sure, but I'm telling you, we followed your instructions to the letter, so I'm confident it was your design that was deficient. Before going to the field, Big Boss and I decided to do a deep review of the project. We rechecked the blueprints, ran the models again, even rechecked the calculations by hand. We found no obvious mistakes on our part, so we started getting on a battle mood to shift the fault to the construction company. Number 1 rule of structural engineering conflict solution: it's always the contractor's fault. So we put on our battle outfit, visibility jacket, helmet and steel-tipped boots, and went to see the problem. See, the beam is collapsing. We had to scaffold it because it kept deflecting more and more. Effectively, we could see the beam getting deflected at Simple's side, and that shouldn't be happening. We asked the competent engineer for a set of blueprints and started checking. Then we saw the problem. A column that we had considered and that was central to the design was nowhere to be found, neither on the blueprints the incompetent engineer gave us or the real thing. Keep in mind that it had no apparent reason to exist, because it functioned differently than the usual designs. Big Boss said, "It appears we messed up. The blueprints that we sent them don't seem to have that column. I better start calling the lawyer and insurance, cause it appears to be our fault." I was not entirely convinced. I had just reviewed the project, so I was confident that the column was on the final blueprints. We usually delivered a set of signed and sealed blueprints and a digital PDF version, so they could make copies and give them to their people more easily. I asked the incompetent engineer for the sealed blueprints. Surprise, the column was there. I was free to breathe again. Rule number 1 was not bypassed. Now it was a matter of knowing who messed up. Incompetent engineer. The blueprints you gave us are inconsistent to the ones we sent. Did anyone modify them? Oh, sure I did. You put a column there that was too expensive and was doing nothing. I asked one of our engineers if we needed it for some code compliance reason, and he said that if it was not structural, it had no reason to be. So I deleted it on our working version of the plans. That was all we needed to hear. We just went to his boss, told him he had modified the blueprints without our say-so, and that we were not liable for the failure. That day, there was one construction engineer job opening, and some happy workers got extra pay for rebuilding that part of the house. The last story is called Fax Printer. My boss once said to me, "I don't know we could print on our fax machine." Sorry, that's not a printer, just a fax machine. No, it prints as well. He showed me some pages that came from the fax machine. I printed this document and it came out of the fax machine instead of the printer. I was surprised. It is not possible. The fax machine is just a fax machine. Well, then, from where came this from? I have no idea, but the fax is not a printer. I will prove it to you. I will print this other document. Go ahead. 10 minutes later, boss told me the fax machine is finally printing. It took a bit, but it is now printing that document I told you. What? This can't be. The fax machine is not a printer. Let me see, and I try to figure out what's going on. I printed out the journal report from the fax machine, and I see the last entries are from a number in Hong Kong. I checked the number, and it belongs to our branch in Hong Kong, so I gave them a call. Finally, the puzzle is solved. Hey boss, I know what's going on with the fax machine. You realize it is a printer as well? Have you been to Hong Kong lately? Yes, I was there last week for some meetings. Did you try to print anything while you were there? Yes. How did you manage to get your printouts to come out of the printer over there? I had to configure their printer in my notebook. Have you checked you are not still printing in the Hong Kong printer? Why? Well, you have been printing all the time in the Hong Kong printer. The printer is besides a secretary who thought your documents were very important, so she faxed them to us. Thanks for watching the video to the end. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. Also, if you want to support me further, check out the channel membership or Patreon. And now I hope you have a great day. See you soon. Bye bye.